Hello everyone. First of all, warm welcome to OCI training by UnoGeeks. In this video, we'll see what Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is all about. Yes, so it's in short referred to as OCI. So we'll try to understand what regions are available in OCI, what are the services offered by Oracle in cloud as part of the infrastructure, and we'll go through the details. Okay, so first of all, let me log into OCI console, and I'll give you a quick overview there. And if required, you could create yourself a new Oracle Cloud free tier account if you want to explore whatever we're going to teach as part of this OCI tutorial series. Yes, all you have to do is come to this page, click on Start for free, and then fill in 3 to 4 pages. It basically asks you to enter your name, email ID, and it asks you to confirm it. And in one of the screens, it will ask you to enter a credit card. But nothing to worry, you will not be charged until you explicitly upgrade your account from free tier account to a paid account. So if you want to get your hands dirty in OCI, go ahead, go to this URL, create a new Oracle Cloud free tier account for yourself, and start using that playground. Okay, and yeah, what clients typically do is they don't sign up for a free tier account. Of course, they sign up for a corporate or for a normal OCI account with a corporate credit card. And whenever client wants to buy anything from OCI or any infrastructure from Oracle Cloud, they would have to log into the OCI console, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm trying to log into OCI console. I'll have to change the tenancy here. This is not the one that I want to log into. So I can change the tenant here. I need to use a different tenant. We need to sign into IDCS console. Yeah, once you sign in, you get to see a console page like this. You get to see a console page, and you will have you see a sort of a dashboard here, and you have a quick actions that you can perform within OCI. First of all, what is this console? This is called as Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Console. And if clients want to buy any infrastructure in Oracle Cloud, they have to come into this console, log into console, and they can procure any infrastructure. Okay, be it a compute power. So you have, if you click on this burger icon, it shows you various services that Oracle offers in the cloud. So it provides a variety of compute options. So you could launch Linux instances, Windows, etc. So you could, again, there are plenty of options available there. You could buy a storage solution as well. You could get yourself a block volume or a volume group, etc. Okay, so you can also get yourself an object storage if you want. Okay, and you have networking options, networking services given by Oracle. With the help of this, you could buy a completely yeah, you could create a complete virtual cloud network, yeah, which will isolate all your infrastructure in the cloud from other tenants. Okay, and you have a database options available. You could get yourself an autonomous database if you want, and you've got 2 or 3 options there. Like you could buy an ATP database or a ADW database or a JSON database if you want, and you could also get a bare metal or an Exadata database as well. You've got plenty of options available here, and in fact, Oracle is one of the leading cloud vendor available in the market today. Also, it's competing head to head with Amazon. one of the prime reason why Oracle is perceived to be lagging behind AWS is the fact that Oracle entered into this cloud fight a bit late. Amazon started investing in cloud, to be frank, 4 to 5 years before Oracle did, and it's that head start that is being showing or that is showing up as a difference at this point in time. But that's okay. Oracle catches up quite fast, and you've got plenty of options available here in terms of different types of services, infrastructure services to be precise, that the clients can procure from Oracle Cloud. Okay, and whenever they have to buy anything in the cloud application, they have to come here, and they could go in here, go to the relevant option, and they can procure that. We're going to release of 30 to 40 videos in the next few weeks, or a couple of weeks, I would say, and we will be covering most of the options that you see here in quite detail. So please stay tuned. Keep checking our YouTube channel. We will be updating videos quite frequently. And in here, so let's look at these options first. Yeah, you've got some quick start options. That's fine. You could instead of going through the navigation options, if all you want to do is launch an ATP database, it just takes 2 or 3 minutes. All you have to do is click on this, follow the instructions, and in less than 2 minutes, ATP instance will be provisioned in the cloud, and you would be able to download the wallet file, and you could connect to it from SQL Developer, and you could proceed with whatever you want to do. Okay, as simple as that. And you've got few options available here that explains the billing and the user management part. And of course, you do have a mobile app if you want to keep track of what's going on in your OCA tenancy. And this is quite important. You've got a region here, and US East is my home region, and you can click on Manage Regions. That will show you what all regions are available in. So that'll show you all the regions that OCA operates in at this point in time. You could see that there are around 30 plus regions now. So you see the all the available regions in the OCA operates in at this point in time. So let me explain this, show this in a better web page. So if you look at the OCA global print, that is something that differentiates OCA from other cloud vendors. Yep, AWS also has a similar global footprint, but no other cloud vendor in the market has such an extensive global footprint. So OCA has got data centers or regions in most of the countries that are available today. As you can see, you've got a couple of them in Mumbai and Hyderabad, and in USA you've got few of them. And these are all, remember, these are all the regions. And within a region, to make it highly available, or to build solutions which are highly available and a disaster recovery from disaster recovery standpoint, what Oracle typically does is, in each region you would have 3 availability zones. What Oracle did is it has provided 3 availability domains. So they are called as zones in AWS. They're called as availability domains in Oracle Cloud. So that lets you deploy applications into multiple availability domains within a region, so that even if there is a problem with one domain, your application will still be working or be accessible to the users, because you would probably put it behind a load balancer, and that would request or that would route the request to the availability domain, which is up and running at that point in time. Okay, so most of the regions that you see here, you see the spread is really good. You've got few in Asia, you've got some in North America and Canada, you've got a few in Brazil as well, UK, Europe, and it is a fast expanding as well. And if you look at some of these are commercial, and some of them are government. And what that means is it's typically used to do the government related projects. And there are, at some point in time, you'll have to take that critical decision of where exactly you're going to launch your applications. And again, you make that decision based on few considerations. Like you might some of the applications, yeah, you might want to deploy them very close to the end user location. Or if you, let's say for example, if you have 80% of your customers, if you get 80% of your customers from say India, you might probably choose to launch your web application in Mumbai or Hyderabad, even though you're basically operating out of US. So that makes it quite that brings down the latency. It's not that if you deploy your web app in a different region that there would be a second's latency. It's not the case, but if you deploy it close to the end user, the response would be even faster. And that could be one of the reason or one of the main considerations behind choosing a region. So whenever you have to deploy infrastructure or say any particular application, you'll have to think about who is going to use that application. Is it going to be used by users across the globe, or from a particular region? So that's one decision. That's one key point that you have to think about. And you also have to think about that there would be some data loss prevailing in any country that you operate in, and you will have to comply with them. Yes, most of the countries do have a requirement that data should not leave the country premises. So in such cases, you don't have an option but to choose a region from where you are operating in. Okay, so there are quite a few other points as well. We'll get into those details. I'm digressing a bit here. Okay, let's come back to the discussion point. So these are all the cloud regions that are available in the market at this point in time, and it is fast expanding. And if you want to see what exact services, so you see here. So if you go into the OCA console, okay, yeah. Why are we seeing only one region here? That's because I've subscribed to only one region. I could subscribe to as many regions as I want, and once I've subscribed to them, I could go ahead and launch services in those regions. Okay, and if you click on this burger icon, you see that there are quite a few OCA services there, right? The compute services, storage, networking, database, etc. So where you so in what regions these services are available? So not all the services are available in all the regions. There are some restrictions. Some of the services are available in all the regions, and some of the services might be available only in a specific region. So it would be helpful if you just go into this particular link, view Oracle Cloud locations, and if you bookmark this URL as well if you want. And if you look at the data regions, again, as I said, within a particular region, you would have multiple availability domains. Within a particular region, you have multiple availability domains. We'll come to availability domains in a moment, but if you see here, if you see the regions, in US, we've got 3 regions: Ashburn, Phoenix, and San Jose. And if you could see that, as you scroll down, you could see what all services, what all cloud services are available in what regions. And if you scroll down, say for example, yeah, you see that this Oracle Cloud data transfer service, this seems to be unavailable in Toronto and Montreal. So in case you want to launch a data transfer service or use a data transfer service or something else like a GPU or HPC, compute HPC, then you will have to probably look for a nearest region where you have that service available and deployed there. Okay, so just the key takeaway is not all the services are available in all the regions. Okay, so you've got a good spread of the regions, but not all the regions offer all the services, because there could be many reasons behind it. Okay, that's about the region spread. And you've got, if you go to EMEA, you've got one in London. You've got a couple of them, in fact, UK South and UK West. You've got one in Germany, Switzerland. Okay, and similarly, if you go to APAC, we've got a couple of them in India and Mumbai and Hyderabad. Okay, and you could see that some of these countries have only one. There are some countries which have only one region, and in such cases, if you have only one region, it becomes slightly difficult to build solutions which are highly available and disaster recoverable. Okay, so but the whole reason why Oracle is setting up regions with only one availability domain. Yeah, sorry, I said one region. I was referring to one availability domain. Okay, so you've got some regions with. This is how the typical region looks like. So you would within a particular country, you would typically have three regions. If you take the case of US, you've got three regions in there. Okay, one in Ashburn, one in Phoenix, and one in San Jose. And those three regions would be connected by a high gig broadband fiber. Okay, and you would get the data transfer or the connectivity would be super fast. And within each region, you've got multiple availability domains. And these availability domains will help you to build solutions which are highly available and disaster recoverable. Okay, meaning if you want to deploy an application, say for example, if you are deploying a website or a web server, you deploy it into two or three availability domains, so that availability domain is nothing but a data center. As simple, think of it in that way. And if you deploy applications in multiple availability domains, and if one of them goes off, nothing to worry. Users will still be able to access the application because that is still running in another availability domain. And when applications are typically deployed in multiple domains, they would be sitting behind a load balancer, and that load balancer will keep a watch on the availability domains to see what is up and running and what is not. And whenever it receives a request from a user, it sees whether AD1 is up and running or not. If it's down, load balancer will say, oh, AD1 is down now. Let's route the request to AD2. So load balancer will be able to take that call and route the request. So that ensures that your solution or application is highly available. And within the availability domain, so this itself gives you that fault tolerance or gives you the high availability. But apart from that, the fact that you have multiple availability zones in regions, that itself is a big advantage. But on top of it, within a single availability domain, again, you have multiple fault domains. So this is like an additional layer of high availability in case you choose to avail. So within an availability domain itself, if you want to deploy applications in multiple fault domains, you could choose to do that if you want. Okay, and this is how a typical region looks like, or a typical scenario looks like in a particular country. If you take the case of US and few other countries, you have three regions interconnected. Within a region, you have multiple availability domains. And within each availability domain, you would have multiple fault domains. Okay. And this is what we discussed about. In fact, these are the building blocks of OCI: regions, availability zones, and fault domains. And in some of the countries, you might have only one region at this point in time, or you might have some regions with only one availability domain. But nothing to worry. Oracle is coming up with different regions in case there is only one available, and multiple availability domains in case there is only one. Okay, so that you could build those highly available solutions. And if you look at the OCI services, this picture gives you a good overview about how OCI operates. Okay, so you have regions at the bottommost level, and you have data centers again there. Data centers are nothing but availability domains, and typically you will have three availability domains. Okay, and those three availability domains would be connected by a fiber again, and these will help you to build highly available solutions. And you've got a physical network wherein you see all the applications, or both the instances, or everything that needs to be connected together, they would be wired up. And what makes OCI stands off is the off-box network virtualization that it offers. Okay, so what you could do is you could build a virtual network in the cloud. It's called as VCN in short. And you could launch your OCI services within the cloud on top of that virtual network, or making use of that virtual network. And when it comes to OCI services, what services are offered by Oracle. Offered by Oracle in the cloud, you've got plenty of compute options, storage options, database options. Like you could launch a bare metal GPU instances or virtual machines or containers. You have an Oracle Kubernetes engine which supports containers as well, and you could also launch Exadata services or Exadata servers and RAG-based DB systems if you want. If you need a highly performant database systems. And you also have got a block storage, file storage options. You've got object storage, which is typically used to store files of very big size as objects. So this is pretty similar to Amazon S3. Okay, and apart from that, you've got a block storage as well, which will be available in the form of NVMEs. And you've got few more options, not just NVMe. Okay, and you've got load balancers, VPNs, and you've got all the security framework that you need. Okay, so you could control what a particular user can do in OCI at a very granular level with the help of security framework. Okay, and that's all about OCI services. Yeah, in the next video, we'll talk about, we'll start off with IAM service, because that's the first one to start off with in any cloud service, right? You have to first create a user and you have to start from, and we'll start from there in the next video. Okay, so IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. And I'll give you an overview of that service, and we'll go ahead and create a user and see what all options are available in there. Okay, please join me in the next video. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. In case you are interested in OCI training offered by InnoGigs, just call us on this number 73960 33555. Thank you.